welcome back to Big Oggy World. So today I am going to make not a local recipe, but a recipe that is based around the southwest then, if you like. We all know all about the Cornish pasty. I'm not doing that. I'm doing a variation of, if you like. It's actually from the Paul Hollywood Book of British Baking. And in the book, it is regional, as in southwest Scotland, blah, 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 like that. And today we are making Priddy Oggies. Now, an oggie is another name for a pasty. So it's kind of like a pasty, but it is not containing beef. This is actually made of pork. So it says not to be fooled by the name, because it is not an ancient recipe. This recipe was derived by a pub landlord in 1968 in the village of Priddy, hence the Priddy Oggie. And it makes use of their local ingredients, which, if you know the southwest, cheese is absolutely excellent down there. Apples, we've got lots of orchards, and pork does particularly well down here as well. So it's pork and bacon. It's got apple, it's got cheese, it's got everything that you could possibly want for a delicious tea time treat. And that's what I'm going to do today. So we're going to make our own pastry for this. I guess if you don't want to make your own pastry, you could use shop bought pastry. But to be honest, this recipe is enough to make 5 oggies. So you'd need at least a couple of packets of shop bought pastry if you don't want to do your own. It's very simple to make your own pastry. It's sort of a short crust, but we are using lard, so it will be more short than normal. And I think if you've got the time, make it, because it will be cheaper for one and tastier for two. So John will put all the ingredients down below as he always does, but to start off with, obviously, we need plain flour, and quite a lot of it is 450 grams. So we are making quite a lot of pastry. Into that we add our little bit of salt. Give that a mix around. And then we're going to add diced lard and diced butter, cold, from the fridge if you can. Put them both in. And then, as is normal with short crust, we're going to rub it in until it looks like breadcrumbs. So try and lift your fingers up. Try and keep it, you're supposed to keep it to your fingertips. I never managed to do that, but you know, I don't get it up to my elbows, so that's good. So lift your flour up when you're rubbing your fat, just to get a little bit of air in. And keep mixing. So I'll be back when mine is at breadcrumb stage. Okay, so mine is now at breadcrumb point. Top tip, if you're not sure whether you've got it all or not, if you just shake your bowl like that, the biggest bits come to the top, so you can see if you've got any lumps or anything. Mine's nicely done. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take some Parmesan cheese, again the amount will be below, and you're going to pour that in. Get yourself a knife and mix it so that it's throughout, obviously. Now, having said what I said earlier about buying shop bought pastry, obviously if you do that, you're not going to be able to incorporate the little bit of cheese that we've just put in. And it's not an awful lot of cheese, but it is Parmesan, which is quite strong. So you will be able to taste the cheese in the pastry. So again, that's up to you, whether you decide to forsake the cheese and go down the shop bought pastry route, or whether you just take a little bit of extra time and make your own. So final stage for this now is some very cold water. Now, I'm not going to give you an exact measurement because everybody's measurements are sort of different. The recipe says between 70 and 80 mils, but it has to be cold, so this is straight out the fridge. And the best thing to do, if you like to do it with a tablespoon so that you can control it a bit better, do. But Put a small bit in. Get yourself a butter knife and mix it with that. And then when it starts sort of clumping a little bit, push the clumps against the side of your bowl with the knife, because you want this to be not sticky. It doesn't need to be a sticky pastry. And if you overwater it, one, yes, it will be sticky and you'll need extra flour to help you roll it out, but also you will lose some of the lightness and the crispness of the pastry because it'll be too wet. So add your water a drop at a time, take your time with it, mix it in well with your knife, and you'll get there quite quickly. I will show you when we're there. Okay, so when your mixture looks curdy, and I will show you what I mean by that, so like that, lumpy but not stuck together, there should then be enough moisture in the pastry for you to bring it together with your hands, and this is where you have to get your hands in. And if you've measured it correctly, or you've done it about right, you should be able to pick your bowl of pastry, not bowl, out of your bowl, and your bowl should be completely clean. So I am going to put a tiny bit of flour on my table, and then we're going to knead this just literally for a couple of minutes until it's nice and smooth, like so. Bring it into a bowl like so. It's nice and smooth, as you can see now. Wrap it in some cling film and put it in the fridge for half an hour. So I'm going to wrap that, put it in the fridge, and then I'll be back and we will start preparing our filling. Okay, so now it's time to crack on with the filling. Most of it is completely simple. Grating an onion's not much fun, it makes your eyes water really badly. But you need a tenderloin, a pork tenderloin, which is basically a fillet. But the thing with fillets of pork or tenderloins is they quite often come with this white membrane on. Now, if you get it from a butcher, you can probably ask them to trim it for you. If not, like me, and you get it from a supermarket, we're going to have to trim it ourselves because that bit is quite tough and sinewy, and you don't want that. So the easiest thing to do is to get a very sharp knife. I prefer a smallish knife, but it's entirely up to you. And it's a bit like as if you were going to skin some fish. So you kind of just get the point just underneath the sinewy bit. And if you wriggle it, it comes away quite nicely. So this piece of tenderloin is about 500 grams and we need about 300. So I've made sure that I've got one a little bit bigger so that I can trim away the stuff that I don't want to go into these pasties or OGGIes. So if you can see, if I wiggle it like that, you end up with the membrane nice and thin like that, and that's the stuff you do not want. Okay, so just sort of kind of work your way around your piece of meat. You can literally chop it up as you go. So you want it into small pieces. There's obviously some bits of fat and stuff on mine as well. So I'm going to trim up my meat, cut it into small pieces, and I'll be back when I've done that. Okay, the last thing to prepare is our apple, and I've obviously left that to last because we know it's going to go brown, and I don't want to put lemon juice or anything on it because I don't want that to be in the flavour of the OGGY. You could put it in water, but again you're adding more liquid then into your mix, and I don't want to do that either because I don't want my pastry to go particularly soggy. So I'm just going to leave it till the last. The they're going to be quite small pieces anyway, and you're not going to notice it once it's cooked. So just work as fast as you can and don't worry. It needs to be a cooking apple. So basically you're not going to see anything because Bramleys will go to literal nothing. So it's not something that you need to be particularly stressed about. So take your apple, cut it in half, cut the core out. Like so. Then you want to take your quarter and slice it thinly. And then with those slices, just cut them in half so you end up with pieces sort of this size. So that is all of our ingredients for the filling ready. So the pork I've cut into pieces like that, tiny little pieces. You want them to be literal bite-sized pieces. You don't want big chunks because you don't want big sort of chewy bits, if that makes sense. So into a large bowl then add your filling, so your pork, your bacon. If you look, they're all roughly the same kind of sort of size. So pork, bacon and apple. So in with the pork goes the bacon. If you can get a good quality streaky, that would be much, much better, because the last thing you want is for a load of that white watery liquid to start coming out in the middle of your OGGY. So if you can get a dry cure or a dry smoke, that is going to be much better. In goes that. In goes your grated onion. In goes your apple. Give that bit a bit of a mix up. Try and combine it. If you want, you can get your hands in there, but I might do that in a minute. I just want to try and get some of that onion mixed in before I get my hands in there and then stink of onion for the rest of the week. Now, into that then, you're going to add your chopped parsley. A good sprinkle of salt and pepper. And finally your grated cheese. And now I'm going to get my hands in there and give it a really good mix. Try and make sure that you break your cheese up so that you get some in every piece. So that is what our combined filling looks like. Okay, so here is our pastry out of the fridge, nice and rested. I'm apologising now for the oven noise as I'm preheating that. You need to preheat your oven to 200 degrees fan, 220 if you don't have a fan, and gas mark 6. It's quite high. Now, we're going to roll out this pastry. And then the easiest thing to do is to find yourself a plate with a 24 centimetre diameter. And out of this pastry, we're going to make 5 of these. So it's much easier if you can just lay a plate and cut around it. So I'll be back when I've finished rolling. So you want your pastry nice and thin. You don't want it too thick. And then you're going to start cutting. Now it's quite likely that you're going to need to re-roll probably for the last one, but we'll see how we go. 1. That's 4 to start off with. And I'm going to collect the bits and re-roll, but I will re-roll once I've got these done. So you take one of your circles and you start filling them up. Now obviously, because you've got them all laid out side by side, you can kind of judge how much filling to put into each one. So put the filling into the middle. Try and make sure you've got, you know, a blend of apple and everything in each one. Leave a little gap around the edges because obviously you're going to need to pull these up together. Right, then what you're going to need to do now is kind of centre it. And then we're going to take a beaten egg and just rub around the edges of our pastry, because that's going to create a seal, like so. Then we're going to lift our pastry up and bring it together at the top. Once you've got it together, pinch it together so that you've formed like a little pouch, if you like so. And then you're going to crimp it. Now, I am not the best at crimping by any means, so just do the best you can. So the thing is to tuck over one corner and then kind of pinch but turn, if that makes sense. Like so. That is the worst crimping I've ever seen, but you'll get into your flow as you go along. And then you take a baking sheet and carefully plonk it on your baking sheet, like so. So I'm going to do the rest and then we'll be back. Okay, so we've established the fact that my crimping is absolutely non-existent and diabolical. Okay, once you've got your OGGIEs filled and on 2 baking sheets, we are going to brush with beaten egg. Like so. I'm going to practice crimping, guys. I have to make some more pasties and practice my crimp, because that is awful. I've only been in Cornwall for nearly 10 years and I still can't crimp. How awful is that? There, so they're all nicely egg washed now, and now they're going to go into the oven. So as I said, 200 degrees, gas mark 6, 220 if you do not have a fan, and they're going to go in for 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do is, because obviously I've only got one top shelf and one bottom shelf, I'm going to put them in for 10 minutes, and then when the beeper goes after 10 minutes, I'm going to swap them around so they get their 20 minutes in their 200 degree heat, and then we're going to lower the temperature to 160 fan, 180 if you don't have a fan, and gas mark 3, and that is going to be, they're going to stay in them for another 30 minutes, and by the time that time has passed, you will have perfect OGGIEs. So I will be back in a while. Okay, so my OGGIEs have had their allotted time in the oven, and I have to say they smell absolutely fab. This juicy stuff that comes out, you get that out of all pasties, no matter whether they're pork or beef or whatever. It's just what happens, because basically the stuff inside is almost steamed in its own moistness, if you like. So they look great, they smell amazing. We're going to have them for our tea. I hope you've enjoyed this film. Give us a thumbs up if you have. If you've not subscribed, please consider doing so. It costs you nothing, but it really helps us out. If you haven't subscribed, thank you very much for your support. There's plenty more stuff coming over the coming months, so do keep an eye out. Hit the notification bell so that you know when we are around. We're not doing regular as in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but things are coming out regularly. So if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss anything. You'll know when we're around. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all again really soon. Bye for now.